Welcome to the Archetypal Mosaic. This is Mikhail Tank. This is a special Halloween episode for the year 2020. A crazy year, but a good show. The guest's name is Ken Watson, and we're speaking to him from Massachusetts. Ken has been associated with the S.K. Pierce Haunted Victorian Mansion, located in South Gardner, Massachusetts, since 2013. And he recently released a book about it. Ken, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, first of all, tell me, Ken, how do you feel about haunted places, and what interested you in this Victorian mansion?
Well, interestingly enough, in 2013, my sisters were doing a ghost investigation with a group. And me and my wife and I were invited, and we took them up on it. And it happened to be the S.K. Pierce Mansion, which we're talking about tonight. And that was our first paranormal experience.
So how is the mansion haunted? How old is it? And what's the backstory behind the mansion?
So the mansion was completed in 1875 by a man named Sylvester Pierce, who was a chair manufacturer and the third most successful in Gardner, Massachusetts. Gardner, known as the furniture capital of New England. And he had lived in a house that previously stood at the site of the Victorian Mansion, and when he became successful enough, he decided to build a 21-room Victorian mansion for he and his wife. The haunting of it really didn't come to light publicly until the 2000s, mainly around 2008 and on. It's been featured in many of the paranormal shows, such as Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, Paranormal Witness, Most Terrifying Places in America. So it's very well known and very popular place to come and experience the paranormal.
So some of the specific hauntings that you've experienced, can you share a few examples?
Yes. Well, my wife and I have pretty much experienced anything possible in the paranormal. From disembodied voices, meaning you can actually hear them speaking as I'm speaking to you. Some of the responses have been, "How have you been, Ken?" by a little boy that's a spirit in the house, seeming that they actually know us and are familiar with us. 2 weeks ago, the little girl, a 2-year-old girl who was a spirit within the house, said to Mimi as she was shutting the outside door, "Goodbye, Mimi." We've seen apparitions. We've been touched. One time I slept there many times by myself, and one time it appears that a spirit jumped in bed with me because the mattress bounced and then a pressure was against my backside for about 30 seconds.
Now tell me, you mentioned that these hauntings began being visible and audible in the late 2000s. Where do you think they were in between all those years, between the people originally dying and 2008? Were they happening with just nobody in the mansion, or did nobody pay attention, or what happened at that time, do you think?
I think most of them have been there throughout the 1900s. Several of the owners I've spoken to never mentioned to me while I was writing the book about any of the paranormal. And in fact, they denied it. Now, whether they just weren't acknowledging it, it's unclear. But most likely it's been haunted for many, many years.
Now, the name of your book, and where can people get it?
So the name of my book is the Sylvester Pierce Genealogy, and also within the book it covers history of the Victorian Mansion that he built, and also his chair factory that he also built. The best place to acquire the book would be to go to the actual mansion site, which would be the S.K. Pierce Haunted Victorian Mansion, under the Rob Conti and Allison Conti, who are the current owners.
Now, can people visit the mansion, and do you provide tours?
We do provide tours by appointment at this time. It's still, some things still need to be accomplished to meet the city's requirement to be open fully, but if they contact private message Rob Conti, actually through the same site I just mentioned, they can possibly set something up for the future.
Can people film in the mansion?
Yes, they can film. There have been several independent filmmakers that have been in the mansion and have done some projects. And we encourage people when they're in the mansion to take multiple pictures, because there's always the possibility you may capture a spirit within the camera, which has been captured many times.
Now, for example, if somebody goes into the mansion and they want to buy your book, is it available in the bookstore?
It is available at the mansion. This is not available through Amazon or any of the big outlets. It's mainly a private sort of endeavor I did. But it will be available at the mansion.
Now, in your bio here, it says that you spent 2 years on the research and viewed over 1,000 documents. Where did you find these documents?
I initially started at Ancestry.com, and then it branched out into actually going to multiple libraries and historical resources. Researching into old newspapers, many city halls to acquire death certificates and things of that sort.
Now, Sylvester Pierce, what kind of a name is that genealogy-wise? Where did he originate from, or his predecessors?
So, English descent, and his father actually arrived, Richard Pierce, in 1637, and resided in Watertown, Mass.
Now, does Sylvester Pierce, does his ghost occupy the space?
He is one of the spirits. Yes.
Does he communicate with you or Mimi?
He rarely communicates directly with anyone. But you can sense when he is around, because you almost get the feeling of somebody hovering over you. You know, giving you the feeling of, why are you here? Why are you in my house? That sort of thing. And you may get aromas. We don't know if he smoked, but when that usually happens, at times you'll get an aroma of a pipe smell or a cigar smell.
I have to share with the audience that I've written a show back in 2009 called Soul Photography in the haunted Queen Mary ship in Long Beach. I stayed the night there, and I had this incredible dream where I woke up and I just started writing the show called Soul Photography, which you can find on iTunes and stuff. And then in the morning I went down to the pool where I felt pretty much nothing, but then there was a room that they stated was haunted. I think it was on the first floor in a different part of the ship that I was. And when I walked into that room, it was a very powerful feeling, and what the spirit said, get the hell out of here. I don't want you. I don't want anybody here. And it was so strong that I left that room, because it was just like extreme. So I know what you mean. You know, I haven't been to the mansion you're discussing, but I have experienced haunted locations. And I'm wondering, is there anywhere in the mansion where you have felt a similar feeling, where something says, get out?
Mikhail, I just lost you for a second there on the last part of the question.
Okay, my last part of the question is, when I was at the Queen Mary writing the show, I went to a room which was different than the one I stayed at, and a ghost said, get out, I don't want anybody here. It was a very, very powerful energy. The energy was so powerful that it translated into verbiage, and it said, get out. I'm wondering, is there anywhere in the mansion, in the Sylvester Pierce mansion, where you have felt a statement of get out? Don't enter this part of the mansion.
It's never been audible. People will get a feeling that they don't belong in a certain area of the home. An example would be on the third floor was mainly the servants' quarters, and there's a maid's quarters. And when men go into that room, if they do not ask for permission to enter, they immediately get a sense of not belonging there. And if you think about it, back in the day, a man wasn't welcome into a lady's quarters without permission. So, yeah, we've actually had men get feelings in that particular room, very emotional, very depressed, very sad, and have come out of that room bawling their eyes out.
Is there a little pulley elevator, the kind that brings food up the different floors? Do you have one of those?
A dumbwaiter. Yeah, a dumbwaiter. There is one that travels from the basement to the second floor.
Does it still work?
No, we had to dismantle it just to meet fire code, because eventually the owner would like to see this as a bed and breakfast. So
now tell me this: is there any part of the mansion, this will get a little dark, that is kind of like the Bluebeard's room, where there was any kind of murders or dead bodies or anything of that sort?
The only documented tragedy that I was able to find, and it's well known, is a gentleman by the name of Eno Sari, and he was a roomer, because at one point this mansion was a rooming house up until the late 60s, 1960s. And in 1963, he fell asleep with a cigarette lit, and he ended up passing away from third-degree, caught on fire. He ended up passing away of third-degree burns.
Where
he is a spirit that roams there.
Where in the mansion did he die?
He died in one of the bedrooms on the second floor.
Okay.
For people that are familiar with the mansion, and some of your audience may be, it's the room that well known as the copper room.
You said copper, like the pennies, the pennies?
Yes, and the reason being, it had copper-colored wallpaper when it acquired that name. So,
explain to me, if he was burned from the cigarette, did the room burn? Did the part of the mansion burn?
It was confined. There was very little damage to the mansion, and the fire department was literally maybe 100 yards from the mansion, so they were there immediately, and they were able to confine it to that room. And so very little damage was done from the fire. A lot of smoke damage, but not fire damage.
Now, you mentioned that you've slept in the mansion, and Mimi has slept in the mansion. I want to introduce people. People have heard the name Mimi, but they don't know who she is. Mimi is a witch, part of the Cabot Kent tradition. Cabot Kent tradition is led by the great Laurie Cabot, a wonderful good witch who has written a wonderful amount of books, released an incredible amount of meditation singles, and is a fantastic lady who I have interviewed previously several times for my show, and I've also been in contact, and I've also been part of the newsletter for several years, and have been interviewed by Mimi for the newsletter, which you can find on my website, mikaeltank.com. So I just want to state that Mimi and you have slept in the mansion. Both of you are connected to the extra dimensions. My question to you is, when you and Mimi have spent the night there, as I mentioned to you, I felt inspiration to write a show. What kind of things have the two of you gotten from being in the mansion overnight?
Well, right from the beginning of entering the mansion, I mean, Mimi and I felt a sort of warmth, a welcoming, as if we were invited there to begin with. And it's been almost 8 years that we've been associated with the house now. What have we got from it, though? What I've got from it is that the story and the actual history of the Pierce family needed to be told. I was compelled to put together this book to have the people that come into the house understand the family, even the paranormal people that come in and they want to experience the paranormal. Well, what better way than to know the history and know how to communicate with them? Mimi, on the other hand, I mean, she's a psychic medium, so she communicates with them at a different level than I do. and she's had some amazing experiences there, actually channeling two of the spirits, where her voice changed and her facial features changed, like I almost didn't recognize her. So it's pretty amazing.
I want you to describe to the audience 3 descriptive adjectives which both describe the mansion and the feeling one gets from the mansion. So 3 about the mansion and 3 about the feeling one gets from it.
About the mansion, just the awe. Just when you first see the mansion, your mouth drops at just the beauty, the awe of it. And walking in is just, what mysteries lie within this house, and just excitement. And the second half of the question, I'm sorry,
is well, you kind of answered them together, I guess, which is great.
I think I did.
Just wondering, like, the feeling people would get from it. Like, when people come out of the mansion, they say thank you, or I read your book and I visited the mansion and I feel this. I experienced that. Like, you know what I mean? So anything that you can remember that people have stated that it provided for them emotionally, spiritually?
The biggest thing that most of the people that come in, and even for tours, just not on the paranormal investigating part of it, is they're so eager and can't wait to come back. It's just such an inviting house. There's 12 spirits in the house, and the interaction that they may experience there is maybe once in a lifetime for some people.
Now tell me about the chair manufacturing company. Is that the way he made the money to build this mansion?
He did. And his chair manufacturing company actually was directly across the street from the mansion. So, and that was in business before the house was built. So when he did build the mansion, he had a tunnel built under the street from the mansion to the chair factory, by which he could travel himself. But in addition, he utilized the steam from the factory to heat some of the house that he had too. So he had steam pipes running through the tunnel.
Now, did that chair manufacturing company turn into a different chair manufacturing company, or a different business, or what happened to it later?
To this date, that piece of property is a chair factory, not owned by the Pierce family anymore, but it's still making chairs.
Amazing. Yep. And those chairs,
I know.
That's incredible. What's it called now, if I can ask?
Standard Chair Company.
Very cool, very cool. What else would you like to share with the audience about this fantastic mansion, the experience that you provide, the book that you've written? What else would you like to share that maybe I haven't asked?
Maybe I'll talk a little bit about the actual mansion, just what to give the viewers kind of a picture in their head of just what it looks like. It's a second Empire Victorian style. It's 3 stories. It's 6,661 square feet of livable space. And as I said before, it has 21 rooms. It has a butler's quarters, a maid's quarters, a nanny's quarters. They used to entertain there, and on the second floor in the main hallway, they would do their dancing and socializing in the parlor on the first floor. And they had a cook that came, and they had multiple servants. It was pretty amazing. And the woodwork is spectacular. It's you can tell back in the 1800s, just the craftsmanship of the carpenters back then. It's definitely a site that everyone should behold.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything else? I can tell you that Mr. Pierce passed away
away in the house, as did his first and second wife. His first wife, Suzanne, they'd been married 30 years, and about approximately 3 weeks after moving into the house, she passed away. So she never got to enjoy it. And he remarried 2 years later to a young woman, 30 years younger than he. He was 57. She was 27. And he had 3 children. And he passed away in 1888. And he was waked in the house, as were his other his two wives.
Fascinating. So now for Halloween specifically, do you make any kind of event or a haunted mansion event or anything like that?
In the past, the house has created a haunted house for people to walk through, but currently, as I mentioned before, because of the city requiring some things to be finished up, it won't be happening this year. Although it is decorated, and we will be handing out candy to the children, and we usually get more than 100 children every year to hand candy to.
Wonderful. Ken, it's been wonderful communicating with you. I'm inviting people to enjoy the book, to go to the website, and to visit the mansion if they so choose. And also to check out Lori Cabot's website to learn about her. Just to be clear for our audience, if you can state one more time how to access the website for the mansion.
So on Facebook, Rob and Allison Conti have a specific site for the mansion, the S.K. Pierce Haunted Victorian Mansion. And there are multiple pictures of the mansion and things that have been happening there. And you can also private message the owner if you'd like to set something up for the future. And there's also a link within his site to purchase the book.
Wonderful, Ken. I appreciate you being on the Archetypal Mosaic. This has been a Halloween special, very apropos, and I hope everybody enjoys this Halloween, even though partially it's canceled, but in our hearts, minds, and souls, it's the Witch's New Year. Stay blessed.